Good morning, everyone.
In unison, good morning.
In unison, good morning, Your Honor.
Mr. Zonen, you may proceed.
Good morning, Your Honor. Miss Arvizo, good morning.
Good morning.
Yesterday, there were a number of questions that were asked about that tape recording of the phone call, or series of phone calls, between Frank and you that you listened to in court early in your testimony, and you had testified previously that you believed it was a compilation of a few different calls. Is that correct?
This is correct.
Alright. Now, at any time during the series of telephone conversations that you had with Frank after you had left Neverland on that first occasion, did you talk with him about the specific issue of danger?
Yes.
And what specifically did you tell him?
The death threats about my children.
How often did you bring up that subject in the course of those conversations?
Every single time.
You were asked some questions about attorneys that you had seen over the last number of years, and why you might have contacted an attorney to deal with Mr. Jackson. Do you remember those questions from Mr. Mesereau?
Yes, I do.
It's a little confusing because apparently you have at one time or another dealt with two attorneys by the same name, Feldman. Is that correct?
This is correct.
The attorneys that you went to with regards to the J.C. Penney's lawsuit. What was the name of that law firm?
The law firm was called Rothstein and Feldman.
Alright. Now, the Feldman that we're referring to, is that Larry Feldman?
No, that is not Larry Feldman.
It's a different Feldman?
It is a different Feldman.
Do you know his first name?
I come to know now that his name is George Owen Feldman.
Did you actually deal with Mr. Feldman, George Feldman?
I've never dealt with George Owen Feldman.
Who are the attorneys from that law firm, Feldman and Rothstein, who you actually dealt with?
From that law firm, dealt with Mr. Rothstein, Anthony Ramirez, and a Michael Adler.
Now, did you contact Feldman and Rothstein?
And
Not Larry Feldman?
there was one more, but he was with Michael Adler.
Did you contact the law firm of Feldman and Rothstein for purposes of dealing with Michael Jackson in any way?
No.
When was the first time issues of Michael Jackson or actions involving Michael Jackson came up with a lawyer?
Mr. Dickerman.
And then Larry Feldman thereafter?
Then Larry Feldman thereafter.
There were questions that were asked of you by Mr. Mesereau as to the amount of money that Louise Palanker gave to you or your family. Did you ever ask Louise Palanker for money?
No.
How many separate checks were turned over to your family by Louise Palanker?
It was 2 checks in the amount of $10,000.
Alright. Were you present at the time either of those checks were written?
I wasn't present.
Were you present at either time the checks were given to you?
No.
Did you know in advance that David was going to be given that money?
No.
Did he discuss it with you in any way prior to him getting the money from Louise Palanker?
No.
Did you assist in cashing or depositing either of the 2 checks?
No.
Were you aware that one of them was written to you?
Yes.
Did you have to endorse that one, sign it?
Yes, I did.
There's been a lot of testimony so far about the cleanroom at your mother's house for Gavin while he was ill. The money that came to create that cleanroom came from where?
From Wheezy, Louise Palanker.
Did you have any conversation with Louise Palanker, either before or after that check was given to you, about how that check would be used?
No.
Were you given any money by Fritz Coleman?
No.
Did you ever ask for money from Fritz Coleman?
No.
Were you given any money by George or Ann Lopez?
No.
Did you ever ask for money from either George or Ann Lopez?
No.
Were you present at any time when that issue of a wallet became the subject of discussion between George Lopez and your then husband David Arvizo?
No.
Were you aware of that at the time that it happened?
No.
When did you first learn about that incident?
I think I heard it from Jamie. And this was after David was no longer with us.
At some point in time, did you learn that there was an unnamed benefactor who was prepared to give you money?
Yes.
Objection. Leading and beyond the scope.
Overruled. The answer was yes. Next question.
Who is it who told you about that?
Jamie.
Objection. Leading. Beyond the scope.
Overruled.
The answer is in?
The answer was Jamie.
Was that Jamie Masada?
Yes, that was Jamie Masada.
What was your response to this offer of money?
I told him, no, thank you, that all I wanted was friends and prayers.
Do you know the name of the person who was this benefactor?
I never knew.
Do you remember when that took place?
This was the best I can remember. It was after all this Neverland stuff happened. That's the best I can remember.
Did you ever ask Jay Leno for money?
No.
Did you ever meet Jay Leno?
I've never met Jay Leno.
Did you ever have a telephone conversation with Jay Leno?
I've never had a telephone conversation with Jay Leno.
Were you ever present at the time your son made any telephone calls to Jay Leno or had a conversation with him?
No.
Were you present at any of the fundraisers that took place at the Laugh Factory?
No.
Mr. Mesereau asked you questions about medical insurance covering Gavin's illness during that period of time. Did his medical insurance cover all of the expenses of his illness during that period of time?
Yes, this is correct.
Did you ever tell anybody that insurance was not covering the medical expenses?
No.
Were you ever concerned about whether the medical insurance would continue?
I was concerned because David wasn't working. He didn't want to go back to work.
Did you express that concern to anybody, to your recollection?
To my recollection, I don't think so.
At one point you purchased an automobile, or, excuse me. At one point, let me do that one more time. You were asked a question by Mr. Mesereau as to whether or not you purchased an automobile. Did you actually take steps towards purchasing an automobile?
Yes, I did.
What was it that you did toward purchasing an automobile?
Okay, I had called a car dealership from a phone booth, from the phone book. And the person, they transferred me over to the sales department. And the gentleman who spoke on the phone sounded really nice. So I figured that's the way I'm going to go, through this dealership, through this man. And then.
Which dealership was it?
I think it was. I don't remember. But I remember it was. I think it was Hollywood Ford. I think it was. That's the best I can remember. And so I had I don't know whether it was a traveler's check or a cashier's check. One of those things made out to that, in that amount, but I then changed my mind and I had it cancelled. So I never did purchase a car.
Okay. You had a traveler's check that you actually made out for a certain amount of money?
Yes, I did.
Were you able to cancel that check?
Yes, I was. Yes. I didn't follow through with the purchase of the car.
You were asked questions about conversations with Mr. Jackson by Mr. Mesereau. Prior to the phone call on the 5th of February, or the date that you received that phone call from Mr. Jackson when he was in Miami, inviting you to come to Miami, had you had any conversations with Mr. Jackson prior to that day?
No.
Had you asked him for any money?
No.
Prior to that date?
No.
Or since that date?
No.
Did you receive any money from him?
No.
What was the state of what was your life like prior to that phone call?
Objection. Vague.
Let me change the question. On the 4th of February, the day before you received that phone call, were there any problems that you were dealing with at that time?
Objection. Vague.
Sustained.
Were your children healthy prior to that?
Our life prior to Mr. Jackson's.
No, just limit it to just the question.
Okay.
Were your children healthy in early February?
Yes.
Gavin was dealing with no medical issues other than the ones that he deals with on a regular basis?
This is correct.
How long had you been in a relationship with Mr. Jackson at that time, Major Jackson?
It was a new, promising relationship with him.
Were you aware, prior to Mr. Jackson's telephone call to you, that he was even in Miami?
No.
Did you express any desire to anybody to go to Miami?
No.
Your Honor, finally, this might be beyond the scope of the cross-examination in which I would ask the court's indulgence to reopen. I've advised Mr. Mesereau of this. We neglected to show part of the surveillance tapes. We missed it on Friday. And I'd like to show the last part of it. It's about 60 seconds worth, if I could do that at this time.
Beyond the scope, Your Honor.
All right, I'll allow you to reopen.
Thank you. You had previously seen some surveillance tapes prior to coming into court, and then you saw some surveillance tapes on Friday. This is an additional footage I'd like to show you at this time. And then we're going to stop the tape and have you identify it. If you could turn down the lights, please.
It's going to be on input 1?
Yes, Your Honor. And we're on input 1, Your Honor? Bob, did you rewire this?
I think you all ought to go together and hire a teenage boy to handle this for you. Laughter.
Any teenage boy.
You don't have that hooked up.
Do you want to play it off the DVD?
I think we'll just play it off the DVD. We'll need input 4, Your Honor. Off the record discussion held at counsel table. Your Honor, I'm just going to fast forward through a portion of it that we've already seen. We're ready, Your Honor. Go ahead and stop it. Miss Arvizo, do you recognize those people?
Yes.
And who is that?
This is now my now husband, Mr. J. Jackson, and my 2 boys, Gavin and Star.
And they appear to be carrying something. What is that?
Yes. They're carrying their military uniforms.
From the laundry?
Yes, from the cleaners.
Do you know what street they're on?
Yes, actually, this is right near Jay's army base, which is way far from where Jay was living.
In West Los Angeles, do you mean?
Yes.
And for the record, the date on the lower right-hand corner is March 20th, 03, and the time was 3:47 p.m. Go ahead, please. And stop it. They're stopping now. The date on the lower right-hand corner, March 21st, 03, at 8:01 a.m. Do you know who's in that car?
Yes, I do.
Who is that?
This is me.
Alright, and that car is?
And my boys.
That car is your family car?
This at the time was. I'm now married to Jay, but that was Jay's car.
Okay. Do you know where you are?
Yes, I am.
Where is that, in this slide?
Yes. Right here, I am dropping off the children at their school. Gavin and Star. I'm parked right there in front of their school.
Is the school John Burroughs Middle School?
This is John Burroughs Middle School.
And would 8:01 a.m. be consistent with about the time that you would drop them off at school?
Yes, this is consistent.
Let's go ahead and, March 21st was a day, in fact, that they went to school?
Yes, I had already by this time immediately re-enrolled them back into John Burroughs Middle School.
Go ahead, stop it. It now says March 22nd at 5:10 p.m. Do you know what we're looking at here?
Yes, this is Jay Jackson's apartment. Where you see that little rag, hanging off the balcony, that's his apartment. I don't know, what's that called? Balcony. That's what it is, balcony. And right beyond the palm you can see me, I'm standing right there.
And again, this says March 22nd, 03, at 5:10 p.m.
So if you look closer to the wall where the palm is, right above the palm, that's me.
Stop it for just 1 second. I've asked to stop it one more time. Just a couple of questions. Behind this apartment building, what is there? In other words, is it a parking lot or something that's right behind? Let me ask it differently.
Okay.
Are we looking at the back of the apartment or the front?
Yes, you are looking at the back of the apartment building.
Standing up on the balcony where you appear to be, what can you see looking down?
You can see the street. You can see other apartments. And beyond that, you can see the actual, like a little eating area, market area, stuff like that.
Okay.
This was Koreatown.
Can you tell, based on looking at this picture, where the person would be who is taking the photograph?
Yes. Based on this angle, they would be right there, on the street, because right there is an actual city street.
Do you know the name of the street right there?
No, I don't. It's just the back side of the apartment building. The apartment building is surrounded by 3 public city streets. And that's one of them.
Were you aware? I mean, now that you know the date, March 22nd, were you aware at that time you were being filmed actually at that time?
No, it's by. Sometimes I would see them and sometimes I wouldn't.
But on this particular occasion.
But on this particular occasion, I did not see them.
Go ahead. Your Honor, we have no further questions.
Mr. Mesereau?
Yes, please. Miss Arvizo. The day after you claim you were beaten severely in the JCPenney parking lot, you returned to JCPenney, true?
Objection. Exceeding the scope of the redirect examination.
Sustained.
Now, you told. The prosecutor asked you about. Excuse me. Let me rephrase it. The prosecutor asked you about what happened to you in the parking lot in his redirect examination, okay? And I'd like to explore some more of those facts, all right? You were in a public parking lot. What time of day?
I was in a public parking. I don't know if you know 'em all. Way at the end. And this particular area where we're talking about, there's actually no windows, no anything. It's almost empty.
It was a public parking lot at JCPenney, true?
Incorrect. It was a mall parking lot, which was at the furthest distance where this tower record sits independently. And there's no windows or nothing of view. So it's kind of like in the farthest away, where it's almost isolated, that area.
Is that where your car was parked?
Yes, this is where the car was parked.
Is that where Gavin ran to with the items that were not paid for?
I wouldn't know that. I wasn't there.
Well, at some point, you saw something going on near the automobile, correct?
That's incorrect.
Did you ever see something going on near your automobile in the parking lot?
No.
Did you see something going on at some point that concerned you?
That's too vague. Everything concerned me.
Well, at some point, did you walk out of a building and see some activity around Gavin and David?
When I had came out of the mall, I had to walk the farthest distance of the parking lot, and that's where I saw David getting beat up by this male and this female. But, no, I did not see Gavin.
Didn't you tell the jury the other day that nothing happened to David?
As far as to the extent that happened to me, no. But I did see him getting hit by this male and this female.
And for how long did you see David being hit by a male and a female?
The best I can remember, it's from when I had view of to where I walked up to them.
How far away from the car was David when you saw him being beaten up by JCPenney security people?
Well, initially I didn't see where the car was. I just saw David. It's until afterwards did I become aware where the car was located.
Did you ever learn that Gavin had the car keys with him?
I was explained that afterwards.
And where were you coming from?
I was coming from having had accepted a job for loss prevention from Oshman's.
Now, you claim that at one point one of the JCPenney security guards twisted your neck, correct?
This is correct.
You said the person got behind you, put a hand on your chin, grabbed your hair and twisted your neck, true?
This is correct.
Okay, you said your head was being pulled from side to side, front and back, correct?
This is correct. And these are things that are happening all in a fast motion. But this attorney, defense attorney, wanted me to break it down to millisecond to millisecond.
Did you break it down from millisecond to millisecond?
I tried to do my best.
Okay, did you tell the truth?
Of course.
Okay, now, you said one of the JCPenney security guards was calling you, bitch, right?
I think so.
Would it refresh your recollection to see your?
I'm saying I think so. I'm saying yes.
Now, JCPenney security guards were assaulting you, if you remember?
The best I can remember, it was 2 males and a female, and then that other one from that other store. That's the best I can remember. And we're talking about this event that occurred almost 7 years ago.
You walked over to where you saw David being struck, correct?
Yes, I did.
And you claim you never struck anyone, true?
This is correct.
You claim you never resisted in any shape or form, right?
This is correct.
You were just attacked by these people for no reason, right?
Yes, this is correct.
You said your head was being twisted like The Exorcist, correct?
Yes.
You said that someone struck you with their knee, right?
Yes.
You said at some point you were.
I'm going to object as hearsay, unless it's inconsistent with current testimony. The deposition would be hearsay.
Overruled. You may proceed.
You said you were dragged on the ground, true?
Yes.
And who dragged you?
I remember how he looked, and it was one. It was one of the J.C. Penney's people. That's the best I can remember.
Now, you were handcuffed at one point, right?
Yes, I was.
And you were then dragged with the handcuffs, right?
Yes.
And you had trouble breathing, right?
Yes.
You fell and you were dragged and dragged and dragged, right?
Yes.
That was in public view, correct?
Like I said, this area is the furthest to the shopping parking mall and it's actually almost behind this building, Tower Records. And on this side of the building, there is no windows. So, yes.
Was it a public parking lot?
Yes.
Was it a parking lot attached to a mall?
Yes.
Was J.C. Penney's in that mall?
J.C. Penney's was on the other side of the mall.
Was Tower Records in the mall?
No, Tower Records is an independent building, and that's where these people did what they did.
Now, you said your head, neck, arms, hand, fingers, back, butt, thighs and calves were all injured, right?
This is correct.
Do you know approximately what time this happened?
Okay, like I said before, this is something that happened 7 years ago, and the best I can remember, it was in the afternoon. Actually, the afternoon.
Do you know what day it was?
No, I can't.
Well, you arrived sometime between 6 o'clock and 6:30, correct?
That sounds about right.
And was it during the week or a weekend, if you remember?
I wouldn't be able to tell you that.
Now, you said that David was driving around the parking lot and delaying what you were doing because you were kissing him over and over, right?
The best I can remember is that David couldn't find a parking space close to the mall. And so, yes, I was happy to have a job.
And you said that your appointment was delayed because you were driving around the mall with David kissing him, correct?
Like I said, there was no parking near the entrance area. So he was trying to find a parking space.
There was no parking because the lot seemed pretty full, true?
No, since I was just going to run in and out to go pick up the drug test, and we were on our way to go wash clothes, so that's why.
But you testified under oath you were driving around the lot because you kept kissing David, right?
He was my husband.
Did you say that?
That he was my husband.
Was that your testimony?
Yes.
Now, yesterday, you said Gavin was 6 or 7, correct?
It's approximately 6, 7, maybe. The boys are about a year difference. So depending, if we count back 7 years, so maybe 6, 7, 7, 8, about there. Because you didn't ask me specifically. You said, boys, I think.
Well, you testified on December 14th, the year 2000, that Gavin was 8 years old when this happened, right?
When, he's mixing up things purposely. My son was deposed right in the middle of chemotherapy and radiation treatment. And at that age, he was 10 years of age. But when this happened, he must have been. The boys are a year apart. He was either 6 or 7, 7 or 8. And this is the best I can remember. The deposition was done when my son Gavin was 10 and my son Star was 9.
Do you remember testifying that Gavin was 8 years old when that incident happened?
This was 7 years ago. The best I can tell you is either the boys were 6 and 7, or 7 and 8. They're only a year difference. So, I'm not really good at math, so if you would like to subtract 7 years from now, that's about when.
Now, you testified that one of the security guards, a female, kept using the F word at you, right?
I think so. I believe so.
That she was going to F you up, right?
I think so, yes.
And she said, you testified she called you an F asshole, right?
I think so, yes.
Would it refresh your recollection to see your testimony?
No, I'm saying yes, I think so.
And you testified she did this for no reason, right?
That's how I felt. That's my opinion.
They didn't know.
Because definitely I did not go inside the store. And definitely I did not do what they were claiming that I had done. which was burglary, petty theft and assault and battery.
And this woman said this to you when you walked over to what was happening to David.
I think they were just overzealous security. And so they did what they did. I think they themselves were in the moment.
Now, you said you were hit with a closed fist, correct?
Yes.
By this woman, right?
Yes.
You said you saw David being choked, correct?
Yes, I did.
Now, you also mentioned that a male security guard assaulted you, correct?
They all assaulted me.
And at some point you hit the ground, right?
Yes.
Okay, and while this happened, the security guards kept cursing at you, right?
I believe it was only one of the males, and the female.
You indicated that one of the security guards took his badge and twisted it into your face, correct?
I think so, but at that time I couldn't tell there was a badge.
Well, you testified that he took a badge, twisted it into your face and said to you, for the 10th time, and did it, right?
Yes, I came to find out afterwards that that's what it was.
You testified you thought you were going to die, right?
Yes, it did feel that way.
And at no time did you resist any of this assault, right?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Overruled. You may answer.
This is correct.
And you said at some point you were face down on your stomach, right?
Yes.
And you said at no time did David ever come over to help you, right?
Yes. This is correct.
You said he just stood there on the sidewalk, right?
That's right. He just stood there on the sidewalk.
You said that the woman was hitting you over the head with her handcuffs, right?
Yes.
And you said she was pulling your hair, right?
This says, if. Yeah, that's the best I can remember.
And you said the male security guard is the one who grabbed your breasts and touched you in your private areas, right?
This is correct.
You also said he was kicking you, right?
I think so, yes.
And the woman was kicking you as well, right?
Yes.
And you said you had no idea why you were being assaulted this way, right?
This is correct.
You said you were being choked, correct?
Yes.
You said you were kneed by one of the two guards, right?
Yes.
You said they all scratched you, correct?
Yes. I did receive scratches.
You said you were hit with handcuffs that were like brass knuckles, right?
They had. I was trying to describe where they were on their hand.
You said that you were smashed like a cockroach, correct?
Probably so.
Did you say that?
I probably did, trying for them to get a visual.
You said that the male was holding on to your breast with one hand, right?
This is correct.
You said they were hitting you all at the same time everywhere, correct?
Yes.
You said that Star was assaulted for no reason, right?
Yes.
You said Gavin was assaulted for no reason, right?
That's right.
And how many security guards do you remember being in the parking lot with your family?
Okay, the best I can remember is first it was the male and female. Then another male. Then another male. And then way towards the end, there was another male, but that other male didn't do a single thing. That's the best I can remember.
You said everything became like an echo, like a cave in a tunnel, correct?
Yes, it did.
And that's when you thought you were going to pass away, correct?
Pass out.
Well, you said you thought you were going to die, right?
Yes, but you're taking it. He's mixing up words. I did feel that way.
And you said they took Gavin and they shoved him into some vomit, right?
Yes.
And you said at some point Gavin just laid there, right?
He did.
Okay. Were you handcuffed standing up or when you were on the ground? Do you know?
I remember that. And the best is, yes, I was laying down when they handcuffed me.
And you said at one point you were called an effing wetback, right?
Yes.
And you said they were all laughing while they did this, right?
Yes, they were.
And you said Gavin and Star were following while you were dragged, right?
Oh, yes. Oh, that is burned right there.
You said at one point your breasts were outside your blouse and Gavin helped you redress, right?
Gavin and Star. My breasts were outside of my bra, and the boys. Because I was handcuffed. the boys got my breasts, put them inside my bra and buttoned me up. So, yes, it was my boys.
And you said that one of the security guards told you, I hate blacks and I hate Mexicans, right?
One of the security guards, that was his focus.
Is that what you claim that one of them said?
I think so. But, since. This is 7 years ago. This is the best I can remember. And since he takes things out of context and mixes words around, but that does sound correct.
You said under oath, Gary said, I hate blacks and I hate Mexicans, right?
Yes.
You were asked how you felt about the fact that clothes were taken without being paid for, and that's when you said, David is extremely honest. He's too honest, right?
Yeah.
You said Gavin helped you get your cell phone out of your pocket, right?
Yes, I remember that.
And you were both dialing 911, right?
Yes.
And at some point, all of you were arrested, right? You and David and the children?
The children were never arrested.
Did they go to the station with you?
No, they never went to the station.
Where did they go?
When I was standing outside, the police officer did not want to take the boys into custody. So he had the station call my parents. My parents came, and the officer gave the boys to my parents, and that's from right there. Then I was taken to the police station after my parents came from the area, and took the children with them.
And you went to the station, correct?
This is correct.
Your photograph was taken, right?
Yes.
Did your photograph show bruises on your face?
I don't think so. I had makeup on at the time.
Do you remember testifying that at the station, you didn't show bruising, you showed marks, correct?
This is correct.
You said, as days went by, they started getting darker and changing colors, every day, every week, right?
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
You said you had no black and blue marks prior to the incident, right?
Yes, this is correct.
Now, the prosecutor asked you questions about a woman who worked at the law firm that represented you named Mary Holzer, correct?
Yes.
And you told Mary Holzer that the photographs in the JCPenney case were the result of David's beatings, not anybody at JCPenney, right?
That's incorrect.
You said your hand was broken, correct?
Yes. Right here.
You said they stomped on your hand, correct?
I think so.
Would it refresh your recollection if I show you that page?
No, I'm saying I think so that's a yes.
You didn't ask that anyone in your family be taken to a hospital, right?
Yes, I did. I asked the officer, and the officer said, we're going to just process you. It shouldn't take long, and then you can go to the doctors.
Do you remember testifying, your response to the following question? Did you urge anybody at any time, including to the police, that either of your sons be taken to the hospital or receive emergency treatment? And the answer was, no. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And you were asked, why is that? You didn't think there was an emergency? You said, at that point I could breathe again. And since my mom knows how to fix everything, Q. You were going to leave it in her hands? You said, yes, right?
Yes.
Alright, you said you're not a doctor, and you didn't have any reason to think you needed emergency treatment, right?
That's correct. But there's also somewhere in the deposition where I stated what I had asked the JCPenney's people, for them to call the paramedics or something like that. This is the best I can remember, and he declined it. And it's in there.
And you testified at the time you just wanted the JCPenney guards arrested. You didn't want any lawsuit, right?
Show me that.
Sure. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
So this is correct, then.
All object is vague to the question, at the time. At the time of the deposition or the time of the event?
You're refreshing her memory. Go ahead.
That's right.
Wait, just a moment.
Have you had a chance to look at that page?
Yes.
Does it refresh your recollection about what you said in that deposition under oath?
Yes.
You said you wanted them arrested. You weren't interested in suing, right?
That's correct. At that moment, that second, when the officers came, that's what I wanted.
You later changed your mind and decided to file a suit, correct?
Because the time had already expired for these people to be arrested.
You claim you had a back injury, right?
Yes, I did.
You said prior to this event you had never had a back injury before?
This is correct.
Okay. You were asked if you knew whether or not David was aware that Gavin was going to run out of the store with the unpurchased items, and you said, I didn't have to, no. I know David's honest character, right?
Yes.
You testified that in the parking lot, your breasts were fondled for minutes, not seconds, right?
That's how I felt.
You said your pelvic area was touched for minutes, correct?
That's how I felt.
You said you were hit with closed fists, right?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Yes.
And you said the security guard spit intentionally.
There was an objection to the last question, Your Honor.
Overruled.
You said the security guards at J.C. Penney spit intentionally into Star's face, correct?
I think so.
Would it refresh your recollection if you see that?
I think so. I think so, meaning, yes.
Did you say that under oath?
I don't know if. This is 7 years ago, so I don't know whether it was Star or Gavin, so that's why I'm saying yes, I think so. But since he said Star.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at the deposition transcript?
Okay, I'm saying to you, because he's saying this, I said yes, I think so.
Just a moment.
Okay.
He asked you a question whether it would refresh your recollection to look at the transcript.
It's okay. I remember it happening to one of my boys. And he's specifying.
Ma'am, you're not answering my question.
Okay.
Do you want? Will it refresh your recollection to look at the transcript?
It's a yes.
You also said the security guards started spitting pumpkin seeds at your family, correct?
Oh, yeah, I remember that. That's right there, burned.
And at that point in the deposition is where you said that David Arvizo had never struck you or your children at any time, right?
Yes, this is correct.
When did you first go to a lawyer after this incident?
I think it was about a year later.
So a year after the incident you changed your mind and decided you did want to sue, right?
That was too long ago, the question.
Well, during the time of the alleged events you described, you said you weren't going to sue anyone and then you changed your mind, right?
There was a criminal proceedings. I was charged with crimes. I was charged with burglary, petty theft, assault and battery. That process took months. And those people needed to apologize.
So you only sued for an apology?
Yes, I did.
At one point didn't your lawyer ask for millions of dollars?
No.
But you accepted $152,000, right?
No. In my hand, what I received, was only about $32,000. That's it.
Now, did you talk to the prosecutor last night about what you were going to testify to today?
On the telephone he spoke to me that he would like to show these surveillance videos, and that's it.
Did the prosecutor talk to you last night about Louise Palanker?
Yes, he did.
Do you remember testifying yesterday you didn't know what happened to the money Louise Palanker gave you and David?
This is correct.
But last night you talked to the prosecutor and now you remember it was used on the room for Gavin?
No, he refreshed my memory as far as what it was. That's all.
Now, you said today, excuse me. Let me rephrase. You said today that you never asked for any money to help Gavin, right?
This is correct.
To your knowledge, the only person in your family that ever asked for money to help Gavin was David, right?
Yes. This is. Now I know.
But on the Washington Mutual account, which was set up to take funds for Gavin, you were the signatory, right?
Yes.
You were the one who withdrew money from the account, correct?
This is correct.
So you're on that account for Gavin, which you have no knowledge of any fundraisers, right?
This is correct.
You're the signatory on that account, but you don't know why anybody even deposits money into it, correct?
That's argumentative. Objection.
Overruled. You may answer.
Okay, can you ask it differently?
Sure. You've said you had no knowledge of any fundraisers for Gavin, correct?
This is correct.
You said you never asked anybody for any financial help at any time, right?
This is correct.
You said you never asked anybody for financial help to assist Gavin, right?
Yes, this is correct.
Yet at the same time, you set up a bank account.
Is this a question or a statement, what you're starting right now?
Yet at the same time, you set up a bank account for Gavin's benefit with you being the signatory, correct?
Yes, I did follow David's instructions.
And you have no idea why anybody put any money into that account, correct?
This is correct.
You just saw the money there and withdrew it, right?
Yes, I was David's personal secretary.
Never asked a question of anybody, where did this money come from? Right?
That's correct.
Just assumed it was for you to withdraw, right?
No, I did what David told me.
And you said yesterday you couldn't remember what any of that money was spent on, right?
This is correct.
And you had no idea that Chris Tucker was going to wire some money into that account, right?
Yes, this is correct.
And all your discussions with your friend Asha prior, who was his fiancée, the issue of Chris Tucker giving money never came up, right?
This is correct. Like I testified yesterday, I didn't become friends with Asha until after David was completely out of the picture. While Gavin was sick, we hardly even spoke. The one I spoke most to was Ann Lopez.
And in your discussions with Ann Lopez, you never learned that George Lopez was planning to put together a fundraiser for Gavin, right?
Yes, this is correct.
And in all your discussions with Jamie Masada, you never learned that he was putting any fundraisers together for Gavin's benefit, right?
Yeah, this is correct.
And in any of your discussions with Fritz Coleman, you never learned that Fritz Coleman was helping to assist your family with Gavin's illness, right?
Yes, this is correct.
No one told you about any of this, right?
That's right.
You never knew that comedians showed up at the Laugh Factory on a number of occasions to help raise money for Gavin, right?
This is correct.
You never knew that Gavin was in the lobby with his father accepting funds, right?
This is correct.
Now, you said you began to buy a car and then changed your mind, correct?
Yes, this is true.
And approximately when was that?
The best I can remember, the best, because I never even stepped foot in the dealership, was the fall of 2001. I think, no, that's incorrect. I apologize. It was definitely the fall. No, it was the fall of 2001. That's the best I can remember.
And was the company that you were going to purchase an automobile from Hollywood Ford?
Yes, it was.
Did you go to Hollywood Ford yourself?
I never went to Hollywood Ford.
How did you communicate with Hollywood Ford?
I looked in the phone book, and I got their phone number from there, and I called.
Do you recall using any money that had been donated for Gavin's benefit on cosmetic surgery?
No, I used a credit card.
Was it your credit card?
Yes, my credit card, which is still outstanding.
I'm going to object as exceeding the scope of the redirect.
Sustained.
The prosecutor mentioned the room that was constructed for Gavin at your parents' house, okay? Do you remember him asking you questions about that?
Yes, I believe so.
And that's the room that today you say Louise Palanker's money was spent on, right?
This is what Mr. Zonen made me aware, refreshed my memory yesterday.
Did you hire a contractor to fix up that room?
No.
Do you know if anyone did?
I now know that David did hire, through Louise Palanker. I know now.
Did you have anything to do with a contractor fixing up that room for Gavin?
No.
Did you ever meet a contractor who was fixing up that room for Gavin?
No.
Did you even tell a contractor what to do to fix the room up for Gavin?
No.
Did you have any involvement at all in making sure that room was fixed up properly to help Gavin with his illness?
I think so. It's my mom's house. It started with it being in my mom's house.
Did you ever see it being repaired?
No. I was with my 2 other children.
Do you remember when it was repaired by a contractor so that it would be an appropriate room for Gavin?
No.
You never had a discussion with anyone about what the requirements were for Gavin in that room.
No.
That was all David, too. Is that correct?
Yes, this is correct.
So David was the one who was telling the contractor what the specifications were for this renovated room, right?
Yes, this is correct.
And David was the one telling the contractor what Gavin's requirements were to make sure he didn't get exposed to germs and things of that sort, right?
I think so.
Was all David, right?
Yes. I wasn't there. I was with my 2 other kids.
It was done at your parents' home, but David was the one taking care of everything, right?
Objection. Asked and answered.
Yes, that's correct.
Sustained. Just a moment. Next question.
Now, in response to the prosecutor's questions, you said that you never obtained any of the money from the first Louise Palanker check, correct?
Yes, this is correct.
That was a $10,000 check written to Janet Arvizo, correct?
Yes.
Was that presented to you by David?
No.
Well, who presented the check to you?
I think this is how it went. I endorsed it, give it back to David, and that was it.
You just said, excuse me. Who gave you the check to begin with?
David had me endorse it, and that's it.
And you know.
I think so. That's how it happened.
Did you know David was going to deposit the check into your parents' account?
Now I understand. This is my understanding, that my mother cashed it for him.
You didn't know that was going to happen at the time?
No, I was with my 2 other kids.
Well, you saw a check for $10,000.
Yes.
Made out to Janet Arvizo, correct?
Yes.
And you knew it was made out to you by Louise Palanker, correct?
Yes.
And you're saying that David asked you to endorse it, but didn't tell you where it was going?
This is correct.
And you never knew until recently that it was deposited into your parents' account?
Yes. This is correct.
Okay. When did you first learn it had been deposited into your parents' account?
It wasn't deposited, it was cashed. Just with a lot of events that are occurring now.
And you never knew where any of that money went, true?
This is correct. I did what David told me. I was like his personal secretary.
Did you ever learn that Louise Palanker had written a second check for $10,000 to David?
I am aware now.
Did you know at the time?
At the time, no.
Well, you were communicating with Louise Palanker a lot at that point, weren't you?
Yes, I was.
Wheezy was your friend, correct?
Still.
And you were talking to her quite often, were you not?
I feel I was.
Yet, Wheezy never mentioned she was contributing $20,000 to your family?
Yes, that's correct.
Wheezy never mentioned she was writing a $10,000 check to you?
This is correct.
Wheezy never mentioned she was writing a $10,000 check to David?
This is correct.
You never knew anything about this, right?
Yes, this is correct. At that time, David was more in control of all these previous friendships that I had had.
By the way, do you recall David's using Vaughn's to cash checks?
No.
Did you ever learn that David would go to Vaughn's and cash checks?
No.
Okay, to your knowledge, did David have his own account anywhere at that time?
No.
He had no bank account at all?
No.
Did he use a credit union at Vaughn's?
Maybe. I don't know.
But you never heard anything about that, right?
No.
Now, in one of the police reports involving David's domestic violence, you said you had been abused by him throughout your marriage, true?
Objection. Exceeding the scope of the redirect.
Sustained.
It would have to do with her injuries, Your Honor.
All right, I'll allow the question.
Thank you. Do you remember telling the police, when David was arrested, that throughout your 16-year marriage he had physically abused you?
Yes. Finally I said something.
You told the police that he would hit you on all parts of your body, right?
Yes, he did.
You said he forced your head underwater, right?
Yes, he did.
You said he prevented you from wearing makeup, right?
That's correct.
And in a number of interviews with the police, you said he had beaten you throughout that marriage, right?
Yes, he did.
Yet, in the J.C. Penney case, you said none of your bruises or injuries had anything to do with David, right?
That's correct.
When you testified under oath in the J.C. Penney case that initially you weren't bruised but as time went on they got blacker and blacker, what did you mean?
Well, that even though I did have visible abrasions, that even though these people had hit me, it wasn't immediate. I could see them.
Did your attorney have those photographs taken that the prosecutor introduced into evidence yesterday?
Yes.
You didn't go to a lawyer till a year later, right?
No, he's incorrect. Those photographs were taken immediately with the criminal court proceedings. That stuff, criminal case, whatever, had nothing to do with the civil case. I had those photos already. Well, actually, the defense attorney had those photos.
Who hired the photographer?
Actually, I think it was. I don't remember very clear. But it was per the defense attorney's actions, ways, I don't know what you would call it, suggestion. I don't know.
It wasn't taken, excuse me. Those photos were not taken by the police, correct?
This is correct.
They were taken at the direction of a lawyer, correct?
Yes, this is correct. A defense attorney, not a civil lawyer.
Where were those photos taken?
That I do remember. It's a place in El Monte. I don't remember the name, but it's El Monte.
Was it an office of a photographer?
No, it's actually one of those, 1-hour photo places.
Who took you there?
I think it was David. Yes, I think it was David.
Do you know when he took you there?
Immediately.
But didn't you testify in the deposition you didn't have these bruises immediately?
No, that's right. When the defense attorney had told us, then that's the time.
Who went there to get their photographs taken?
I believe it was me and David. And then I think Gavin was. The boys were with us. I think so.
And were you doing this all at the direction of David?
No, I was doing it in the direction of the defense attorney.
And what was this defense attorney's name?
Mr. Fountain.
The prosecutor asked you questions about attorney Bill Dickerman. You first met attorney Bill Dickerman on February 21, 2003, correct?
Incorrect. I remember the date. It was February 25th.
Did you ever tell anyone that you met with Bill Dickerman on February 21st?
No.
Have you ever discussed with Bill Dickerman the date you first met him?
No.
Are you aware of Gavin telephoning Jay Leno at any time?
No.
Never heard anything about that?
No, I've heard now.
Did Gavin ever tell you, I tried to reach Jay Leno?
No.
Were you ever standing in the background during a phone call that Gavin made to Jay Leno?
No.
Have you ever spoken to Jay Leno?
I've never spoken to Jay Leno.
If I may just take 1 second, Your Honor, I'll be ready to wrap this up.
Yes.
Were you aware of Gavin making any attempt to contact celebrities by phone?
No.
To your knowledge, did Gavin ever try to contact any celebrity from your home?
No.
Did you ever contact any celebrity from your home?
No.
Did you attempt to contact any celebrities at any time?
No.
No further questions.
Ms. Arvizo, did you earlier testify that you had contacted George Lopez when your son became ill?
Yes.
All right. Did you contact any other people when your son became ill to notify them that he was ill?
I think I contacted Jamie Masada, Louise. These are all previous people that I had already known before Gavin had become ill. And that's it. That's the best I can remember.
When did you first learn that Gavin had been injured in the altercation at J.C. Penney's?
Okay, my parents had came and picked up the children from the parking lot, because the officer did not want to take them to the police station. And so it was my mom who called me up and told me that she's tried everything, first aid, and that was still not enough for the kids to feel better.
You say she called you up. Where did she call you?
She called me. At that time I had a cell phone.
But where were you at the time? At what time was this?
I was staying in the place that we were staying in.
Okay, I'm asking you when. So had you already been arrested and released from jail?
Yes.
And had you already gone to the hospital?
Yes.
For your own injuries?
Yes.
So at the time that you were being arrested at J.C. Penney's in the parking lot, were you aware that Gavin was injured at that time?
I had seen them, the way they had hit both the boys, but I figured my mom, could do what she always does, and in first aid, just like when they fall or scrape or anything, that she can tend to them. So that's what I figured. I didn't think it was beyond what my mother could care for. But my mom made me aware that it was beyond her capability.
Did you know at the time that you were arrested that your son Gavin had a broken elbow?
No, I didn't.
Did you know at the time that you were arrested that you had a broken bone in your hand or wrist?
No, I didn't.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
All right, we'll take our morning break.